This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 800, recorded on Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. This is our 800th podcast episode. Woo! Woo! Yeah! Uh-oh. Woo! And the crowd goes wild. I'm Dr. Kiki, and today we will fill your head with long necks, tubes, and parasites. But first, thanks to the Burroughs Welcome Fund and our Patreon sponsors for their generous support of TWIS. You can become a part of the Patreon community at patreon.com/thisweekinscience.
Disclaimer. Science is how you're now hearing this. What you watch things on, why you can see at night, how you keep warm in the winter, cool in the summer. Science is how appliances work, how vehicles work, why airplanes are a thing, and what computer programs are made of. Science, it's what doctors study. It's the thing behind food safety, medicine, vaccines, health recommendations, operations, therapies, and cures. Where are you when you use your GPS to navigate? Relativity speaking, you are smack dab in the middle of science. That's where we talk about science from time to time here in this space, results from across the scientific disciplines around the world and beyond. In the short time that we've been doing this show, a staggering yet believable number of studies have illuminated our world with new information. Cosmic questions asked and answered, data captured from stars, black holes, supernovas, dark matter, gravity waves, bosons, and neutrinos galore. Data in such quantities we barely have the means to store, let alone analyze what we have found. A next generation, the new appreciation of space exploration has only just begun to lead the way into frontiers long imagined. We have unearthed fossils, decoded DNA, and found unexpected artifacts, giving glimpses into our past, trading out old fables of how we came to be for evidence-based understanding of who we actually are. The struggle, not just of humanity, but of all life, to survive, adapt, evolve, and persist among the stars. There were amazing observations of our animal friends, always smarter than we thought they were, often more complex than we could have guessed, the living examples of successful evolution all around us. And we have watched the warnings of scientists go unheeded in addressing global climate change, in pandemic precautions, and the results of our heedlessness plays out in predictable ways. So much science all around us, with so much coming our way. There's no wonder why we can't stop talking about it here on This Week in Science. Coming up next. I am a scientist. We gotta live on science alone. Is that the intro?
Oops. Did I get the wrong song?
Was that the original song?
2005. Okay, I'll get it right this time, everyone. We have the right song coming up.
That was a throwback.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. This week in science. What's happening this week in science?
And a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. And, oh yeah, it is episode 200.
No.
Episode,
No, 800. 800. That was
800! I must have lost count
episodes.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
You must have.
If you're keeping track, 800 episodes at one a week is at least 5 years we've been doing this, at the very least. I'm not good with the math.
At least 5 years.
Carry a remainder, but
yeah, in fact,
at least 5 years.
Takes us back to about here.
Good morning. Welcome to This Week in Science, and we are here living on the science tip.
Morning, Kirsten.
Morning, Justin. We're here bringing you more science for another hour on KDVS. And we've got lots of great stuff for you this morning. We've got an interview at 9 o'clock with Dorothy Geetson from UC Davis. She is a researcher in the nutrition area of nutrition.
Hopefully she can dispel a myth.
Well, I hope she
Urban legend
can.
like
I hope
that.
she can. She's going to be disseminating a lot of wonderful information about your diet and what she's learned from mice and rats and how it might be able to...
Which aren't really a big part of my diet.
No, not mine either.
It's not lately.
Anyway, you can join us.
Anyway, and this was
Who
about
are
the
those
time. Yeah, who
Are
were
your
those
original hosts
people?
of the show?
Those young
sound
voices, those
Unfamiliar.
incredibly young voices that in this episode said,
Oh, the first thing I wanted to go over to talk about was the fact that we're podcasting now.
podcasting.
What's a podcast?
What's a podcast? Well, a podcast is we've packaged our recorded shows on the web so that people can download them very easily. We've always had them up on our website as MP3 files that can be downloaded. But with podcasting, you can basically, people can subscribe to our website, more or less, and instantly their computer will just, kind of check for updates every now and again.
Updating.
Automatic
That's a great
updating,
idea.
yeah. So they won't actually have to personally come to our website. They just subscribe to it for the podcast, This Week in Science
What is this,
podcast, and
witchcraft?
automatically can download.
And then they don't have to wake up this early.
And then they don't have to wake up this early.
And we used to get up early in the morning to do this show. Now we stay up a little bit late. But oh yeah, 2005. This was March of 2005. And I believe, and I go on to talk about in this segment about how the previous episode in which we had interviewed Brian Greene on his string theory stuff, we had 750 downloads of that one episode, and it was very, very exciting. Very exciting.
Mhm.
It was amazing. Yes. Oh, what's a podcast? That was a great question.
Yeah, my
Justin.
understanding of the interwebs has not increased very much over these years.
Well, like those episodes from 2005, way back when we began podcasting and embarked on the podcasting adventure, we were bringing science stories and interviews week after week after week. It was just me and Justin at that time. Now we have Blair, and we've had Blair on the show as a co-host. Hey, for a very long time. And we have had so many listeners through the years, so many audience members, and some of you are now joining us right now live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Hello to everyone who's watching us live right now. Those of you who are in the chat room, hello. Thank you for being here with us for this celebration, for this episode, for us to talk about science, because we have good science for you tonight, just like we always have. I have stories about, what do I have? I've got some long necks. I've got some geoengineered nope. And also some COVID news, because that's, I always have to be Debbie Downer and bring you the COVID news. So that's what I got for you.
I mean,
Got
we're
a
a science podcast,
We're a
so I
science
feel
podcast.
like if people can't
down,
trust us for the
down.
real stuff on this weird topic, yeah, I'm
Bringing
glad
it
you're
all.
doing it.
I'm
Yeah.
bringing it all in there. Justin, what did you bring?
So, COVID is a small virus. I'm bringing giant viruses. Ancient Americans in lava tubes, secrets of owl feathers, and just because you're paranoid, don't mean your vacuum cleaner ain't eavesdropping.
Oh,
Maybe your
what?
vacuum cleaner. Mine is very cheap.
My vacuum cleaner is just, never mind. Okay, Blair, what's in the animal
Yes.
corner?
Oh, I brought some eavesdropping monkeys, actually. I brought dog sensitivities. I brought chirping birds and just some of the grossest parasites you've ever heard of. You're welcome.
Oh, we've
Great.
covered so many parasites and gross ones
out
on this show.
factor.
I'm actually pre-terrified.
I'll tell you, I had trouble looking at the pictures, which I
Oh.
had trouble looking at the
Yeah.
pictures. So
Yeah, and you're
just
the
a
one
little
that introduced me to
Right.
traumatic insemination.
Yeah.
And so,
Weren't
right.
those the days?
oh my goodness.
When I first learned about bed bugs, my goodness.
This is
Well,
Special day
terrifying.
in my life.
As we jump into the show and into all these science stories of our 800th episode, I would like to let you know that if you are not yet subscribed to This Week in Science, you can subscribe to us by finding us places where we are. We are on all the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We're on the podcast platforms, Google, Apple, Pandora, Spotify, Spreaker, Radio.com, TuneIn. Go to the places. Look for This Week in Science. You'll probably find us. You can subscribe and get us downloaded by your computers every week without actually having to go to our website. I don't know if I said it like I did back in 2005. Anyway, you can also visit twis.org if you want. It's now time for the science. So let's talk about long necks. I'm trying to stretch my neck and make my neck longer, and I don't know how I can do it. What if I wanted to get a longer neck? How would I do it? Well, apparently some dinosaurs got longer necks because of global climate change.
How so?
Yeah, we don't know exactly how it happened, but researchers from Ludwig Maximilians University and the Bayerische Staatsmuseum for Paleontology, I cannot do German, I am sorry, and Geology now report evidence on why sauropods may have evolved from all of their ancestors round about 180 million years ago. They were looking at a bunch of fossils in an area of Argentinian Patagonia called Chubut. And in Chubut, they found a lot of sauropod fossils. Also, they were able to discover very well stratified layers of ground so they could actually determine the timing and the ecological conditions that were present when those sauropod bones were laid down. In doing that, they were able to precisely date these sauropod fossils to 179 million years ago. And there were not any sauropods before then. And then there weren't any other of the sauropod family of dinosaurs after then. It was like something happened and the long necks took over and the other ones died out. So what they saw in the strata that they were looking at, they discovered that the climate changed from temperate, warm, humid, with lush vegetation, lots of different kinds of vegetation, into a very hot and then dry seasonal climate. And so the flora changed, all of the plant life changed, and it was less temperate, less lush, more like coniferous. And it had a lot of different kinds of plants that did better in those areas. And because the sauropods were able to adapt to that vegetation as the vegetation was changing, then the sauropods were able to stick around. They were the most robust group of these dinosaurs, or the most robust species of these dinosaurs, and were able to survive where others could not.
So I'm wondering if surface area has anything to do with this also.
There were a lot of other very large dinosaurs
Right.
in that time period leading up to the period of climactic change. It's not like all of a sudden only the big dinosaurs survived, but for some reason, the long-necked dinosaurs, the sauropods, did very well.
Although I think if anybody out there does discover large sauropods in their Chubut, they should get Dr. Justin's Not a Real Doctor ointment. It'll cure what ails you.
What?
Somebody got it. Whoever got the joke,
Justin,
that's who it was
We
for.
all
In
got
Chubut?
Anybody who didn't laugh at that joke, it's because it wasn't for you. It just wasn't for you.
It just wasn't for you.
I thought it was funny. That was exactly for you.
Another possibility is maybe the sauropod's teeth were better able to chew up the vegetation that was tougher vegetation chewing. But Justin, lots of different things survive. Tell me about some big viruses.
Okay, viruses. Yeah, good God, what are they good for? You got the rabies, there's AIDS, there's COVID-19. Sounds like viruses are terrible. But viruses do more than cause illness. In fact, those are sort of outliers in the viral society. Most viruses that we encounter don't have any ill effects. Large viruses, especially those in the nucleocytoplasmic large DNA virus family, may have even played a role in evolution. So this is giant viruses that can integrate their genome into that of their host and then dramatically change the genetic makeup of that organism. This is according to Frank Aylward, assistant professor at the Department of Biological Sciences at Virginia Tech, says, viruses play a central role in the evolution of life on Earth. One way that they shape the evolution of cellular life is through a process called endogenization, where they introduce new genomic material into their hosts. When a virus endogenizes into the genome of a host algae, it creates an enormous amount of new genetic raw material for evolution to work with. Mohammed Moniruzzaman is a postdoctoral researcher at Awad's lab, and he studies fragments of whole sequences of raw viral DNA that have been inserted into the infected host's genome. Together, they discovered elements that originate from giant viruses in green algae. And they find it's actually much more common than anybody had thought. Their findings are published in Nature. So these are chlorophytes. It's a group of green algae. They are a photosynthetic organism that is the base of the food chain in many, many ecosystems. This is a massive amount of food that our planet relies on. It goes down to its base to these algae, sort of one of the bottom tiers of the food pyramid. And they thrive in lakes and ponds, freshwater, kind of fresh, still waters. They're close relatives to land plants. So also studying their interaction with giant viruses may give us some indication of what might have happened between viruses and early plant evolution. Munir Uzman, who's the first author on the study, says, we now know that endogenous viral elements are common across chlorophytes, which makes you think that plants might also interact with these giant viruses. There is some data that suggests that some early plants like moss and ferns did experience these events over the evolutionary timeline. We're not exactly sure about the extent of this phenomena in other early plants. What they do know is that in the green algae that they studied, they had 65 genomes, and they found that 24 of them had some kind of viral signatures in their genomes, which originated from the repeated introduction of distinct viruses. In one of the organisms, Tetrabena socialis, they found that about 10% of the genes in this algae originated from the giant virus. It's a pretty significant chunk to then. Yeah. And so some of the things that they're looking at this, they're trying to figure out what are the conditions that cause this interaction. Why is it the hosts don't show any sign of rejecting them? And how is it maintained? So if they're seeing this now, how is it that this hasn't been sort of pushed out of the genome over time? It must then, they assume, be creating some advantageous or at least not disadvantageous role within the genome. You know, I'm thinking back too, like we've had other examples of giant viruses being able to sort of create its own DNA, creating its own new nucleotide patterns in there too. So within giant DNA, within giant viruses, the DNA already has an ability to sort of experiment. And then it interjects itself into these, into this other life form, or into this life form. which then utilizes that DNA in unknown ways going forward. So
More
looks like they
experiments.
found a nice driver of early evolution.
Bacteria, we know, have horizontal gene transfer, but you get these viruses in there and you have these little bits of viral DNA. They can be moved all over the place, add a little diversity. So is it viral? Is it bacterial? Where did it come from initially? It's probably all shared at one point.
Yeah, and it's going to be sort of...
Which, how can you share DNA with something that isn't alive? I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because one of the difficult things, of course, is sort of going to be able to backtrack a virus that was sort of present, millions and millions and millions of years ago when life was just getting started on this planet, billions of years ago, 3 billion years ago, if you're talking about the first bacteria, and if there were interactions with viruses and bacteria back then. Which ones started what? How did they, So it'd be really fascinating to find examples if you could backtrack land plant to virus origins. Really fascinating subject and field that's just now getting started, really.
Blair, you got another story now?
Yeah. So first of all, I feel like somebody has to stitch together us mispronouncing people's names and places and species names.
Years of it.
I would love that. Anyway, do either of you have a white noise machine?
Fan. I have a fan.
You have a fan. Okay. So I also don't have one, but if you had to pick what to put on it, you might want to put like some crashing waves, maybe a squeaky dog toy.
No.
You can kind of pick what it is you want in the background. Well, zoo monkeys, actually in a Finnish zoo, have shown a significant preference for traffic sounds instead of noises of the jungle or other natural sounding things. They had a tunnel fitted with a sensor, and they gave the primates a chance to choose to listen to sounds of rain, traffic, zen sounds, or dance music. Ooh! And the sound of vehicles rumbling past was overwhelmingly the most popular choice, and they slept or groomed inside the sound tunnel. They didn't do that when any other sounds were playing. One of the lead researchers believes that the road sounds actually might have been chosen because they mimic some of the monkeys' natural means of communications. In the wild, they use this high-pitched hissing sound, squeaking or croaking. So she thinks it might be similar. I think it's probably just because they're zoo monkeys, so they're used to a more urban environment, and that's what they were raised in. So that's what my expectation is. But it's a good original study where they can show preference in zoo animals. They could extend this to lighting, temperature, any number of visual cues where animals can pick their own environment. So kind of hand them the remote control and let them pick what's playing on Netflix. So yeah, if you wanted to know what these particular white-faced Saki monkeys chose in this one Finnish zoo, they preferred traffic noise.
I think you're right on that. It seems like if you're reared in an environment with traffic noise, you're going to have associations with good memories and, being cuddled and cleaned by your mother, other monkeys taking care of you. You're not going to be afraid of them, and it's going to be soothing. That's your environment. Mm-hmm. That's what you like. Yeah,
absolutely.
But that's funny. We just assume, they're going to like jungle sounds.
Yeah, some of you listening probably like to put TWIS on to go to sleep. Right. We're part of your natural environment. There's enough episodes. If you're not caught up, there's 800, so you can just keep them playing for days, weeks, months probably. You'd never run out of white noise. So we could be there for you. Just saying.
I think we're a little bit noisier than white noise. I think. Mm-hmm. I'd like to think. Well, I've got a little bit of a nope coming up in this story. For years on this show, we have talked about climate change, and we've basically been tracking our societal and scientific understanding of climate change over the last 20 years that we have been doing this show, all told.
It's never decreased.
Yeah. In all of these stories, there are many solutions to climate change and the issues of climate change that have been put forward. So in addition to, hey, we should just stop putting as much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, there are geoengineering solutions that have run the gamut from let's spray stuff in the atmosphere and block the sun's light. Maybe we can put a big old solar panel in space and also block the sun's light. Maybe we could, there are lots of ideas of how we can use engineering to build and make our way out of the problem that we have caused for ourselves. Well, over the years, I've very often been skeptical of a lot of these ideas, but, just understanding the complexity of ecosystems and atmospheric interactions and so many things that we had the hubris to think that we understand how it works. And then somebody goes and changes something and, oh, look, there's this completely unforeseen consequence. Well, you have to do modeling and you have to try and figure out what all the pieces are. And in a paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences this week, researchers used computer modeling to look at what happens in the atmosphere with solar geoengineering if it were to be done. And what they found is what?
Solar engineering.
So solar geoengineering, one of the ways that this would work is to inject little tiny particles like sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. And because they're reflective, they would reflect the sun's light and be a shield against the sun. So the Earth would cool.
We're going to intentionally aerosolize the upper atmosphere with particles. And that's
so literally the plot of The Matrix.
Yeah. And
is it really?
Yes.
But sulfur dioxide, there's a lot of it in Venus's atmosphere. I'm just going to put that out there before we move forward in this story. But what the researchers found is, oh, hey, if we were to allow engineers to move forward with this idea, it could make certain kinds of clouds disappear from the sky entirely. Gone.
What? That sounds bad.
Nope, deep. Yes. I mean, clouds are a part of the way the atmosphere cycles. We know that clouds do block light from the sun coming in. They also are part of keeping some heat trapped in our atmosphere. And it's a very complex system. What they found is that there's another set of risks solar geoengineering that has not received the attention it deserves. Elevated greenhouse gas concentrations may trigger substantial global warming by reducing the cooling effect stratocumulus clouds provide, even when all or much of the greenhouse gas at the top of the atmosphere is compensated by solar geoengineering. So the models suggest that unabated levels of greenhouse gas, regardless of overall climate warming, would have very detrimental effects within around 100 years, so fairly soon. And then it would lead to more warming. We would get hotter.
I know. I just love the idea of there's too much of something in the atmosphere. I know what I'll do. I'll put more stuff in the atmosphere.
Yeah. So that particular idea, I hope this study makes its way out into the engineering community so that nobody ever says, or nobody in a position of power ever lets this happen. Let's just not do that. Can we not mess with the atmosphere of the only planet that we live on?
How would that work? Because
I don't know.
It is the whole planet that we all live on. So how could one nation be like, I'm going to ruin this place for everybody?
I just think that we've got the best solution. And so my solution is we're just going to do it. And, everyone will find out it's the best solution. And, oops, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I hate. Let me just tell you, I hate.
Yeah.
Well, this
Yeah.
was the nope idea, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was prefaced. This is a bad
Yeah.
idea.
It's a bad idea. I've always been a bit skeptical, but this is, I think, the benefit of the scientific process. People can throw ideas out. People can be supportive or skeptical, and then you do scientific inquiry, experimentation, modeling to determine whether or not it's going to really be a good idea before you actually go about destroying your only planet's atmosphere. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I think. Justin, do you have a story?
I do. This story is about the mysterious peoples of Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde.
Canyon. Ooh.
So these are the people who built the amazing cliff dwellings in the now arid deserts of New Mexico, actually all throughout the sort of Four Corners region in the southwest of the United States. They thrived there really for over 10,000 years. And then sometime in the late 1200s, abandoned the territory completely. But before that, they had built these complex societies. They had this unique architecture. If you Google Mesa Verde, you will see what looks like these amazing, almost alien cliff dwelling built things. These structures within canyons and along face cliffs that were just really advanced architecture for the times, planet-wide. So climate change had sort of dramatically altered things. They had an ice age retreat. There had been lush, watery lands as the big glaciers had melted, and then the whole area became increasingly more arid and hotter, and water became more hard to access. That's the theory about why at least everybody left the area. International geosciences team led by the University of South Florida have discovered one way in which the ancient Americans survived: lava tunnels. Exploring a lavitude in the El Malpais National Monument using precise radiocarbon dated charcoal found preserved in the deep recesses, University of Southern Florida geoscience professor Bogdan Onak and his team discovered that ancestral Puebloans survived devastating droughts by traveling deep into the caves and starting fires. Why would they start fires to survive a desert, Kiki? Claire?
Because it gets cold at night.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it does get cold at night. It is high desert. But that's not the right answer. Right answer was there was ice down there. There was frozen glaciered ice down in these lava tubes. And they would start small fires to melt ice deposits to get fresh water and then cart them out with clay pottery.
That's
so
great.
this
Oh, interesting.
And this is they've been doing this for a while. So this is dating back as far as 150 AD to up to the age of 950, based on their carbon dating. Water gatherers left behind charred materials in the cave, indicating that they'd started fires to melt ice to collect as drinking water. They also did some work in collaboration with colleagues from the National Park Service, University of Minnesota. A research team from Romania was involved. The discovery is published in scientific reports. So droughts are thought to have influenced settlement and subsistence strategies, the intensity of agriculture, demographic trends, migration of the ancestral Puebloan societies that once inhabited there. Researchers claim the discovery from ice deposits presents unambiguous evidence of 5 drought events that impacted those societies over the centuries. Quotey voice from Onak. This discovery sheds light on one of the many human-environment interactions in the Southwest at a time when climate change forced people to find water resources in unexpected places. Sort of interesting, too, they hadn't gone looking for this. So Onak studies climate change by taking ice cores from typically really deep locations to sort of see what the history of the water accumulation was. When you can tell a lot about the climate above ground by going underground and seeing what's accumulated and when it was accumulated. But when they got down there, they found all of this carbon ash. In fact, in one of their core samples, they got a piece of pottery back. And it was like, okay, we're like, okay, the study was focused on a single lava tube, which is amid a 40-mile swath of treacherous ancient lava flows and tubes underground. So they were, I think, 14 meters at a 14 meters depth and at the location where they found this, but it was still pretty good, pretty high above sea level because this is a high desert area. But yeah, their ice cores brought back bits of pottery that they think was probably used to collect the water out. They also kind of noticed that all the fires that were set seemed to be small in size, indicating that there was probably a threshold that the ancient peoples had figured out that they could start a fire and still maintain air quality enough. Right. So if you start too big of a fire, everything fills up with smoke. If you start these small fires, the normal aeration of these tunnels was sufficient, perhaps, to push it out. So, yeah, they went down, found charcoal ash deposits, pottery shards. Yeah, so it was a fun, unexpected thing, but it turned into a much more interesting, I think, discovery than the first one that they worked at. But they could still see the drought events that took place as well.
I love it.
I
think it's fascinating.
And think about that next time you just go turn on the faucet.
Where does your water come from? Maybe
I guess I'll go 14 meters underground, start a small fire, and collect it in this vessel. Once the ice melts, and then bring it back. Yeah,
bring it all back.
I'm that thirsty all of a sudden.
I've got a story about sleep. I do.
Sweet sleep.
Sweet sleep. We all love our sleep, right? Sleep is something that we don't take for granted so much anymore. So many of us are potentially experiencing sleep issues this year of 2020. But I have a question. What are your sleep habits like? Do you sleep more like an older person or more like a younger person?
What does that mean? How are those categorized?
Well, I mean, this is kind of a broad generalization for sure, but younger people are more likely to have uninterrupted sleep, to sleep deeply, to have sleep of maybe 6 to 8 hours, and one of the most important things, not to experience daytime sleepiness.
Okay, that's what I was going to say, because I was like, I feel like the unexpected necessity of an afternoon nap that will just show up out of the blue is definitely oldie person sleep bad. Yeah.
So right. I think I slept like a young person until probably this year.
Okay,
I slept for 6 to 8 hours, dead to the world, just like asleep in 5 minutes, did not wake up again till the morning. It has changed drastically.
The bad astronomer just jumped into our YouTube chat room, and in addition to saying congratulations on 800 episodes, thank you,
thanks.
Phil. He also says he wakes up screaming every 4 hours, so sleeps like a baby. Ha 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 ha. Ba-dum-bump. Yes, I mean, yeah. So
that's like a real thing. That's a real thing. No. There's people who do this, which I didn't really realize was the thing until recently. But yeah, people who will scream bloody murder, like
night terrors.
Night terrors, but they don't
that's
necessarily remember them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so,
but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are 2 studies that came out this week, one published in Circulation and one published in Nature Human Behavior. The Circulation study looked at a very large cohort of individuals, tracked them over several years. They both did. Looked at thousands of people, tracked them over several years. Circulation study found that if your sleep habits are more like a younger person, if you sleep better, report 7 to 8 hours a night, you don't experience insomnia or daytime sleepiness, you're 42% less likely to experience heart failure. The Nature Human Behavior study found a similar relationship for cognitive performance. And the researchers write in that Nature Human Behavior paper in their abstract, taken together, our results point to multiple facets of sleep neurophysiology that track coherently with underlying age-dependent determinants of cognitive and physical health trajectories in older adults. And so the sleep habits are correlated really with, or can be correlated with overall health, your brain health, your body health, according to these 2 studies. And if you have these better sleep patterns, more regular sleep, I'm going to say we can just give this year a pass. Whatever happens this year, don't worry about it. We'll get back on track later after everyone's not all stressed out and afraid of the pandemic and all the stuff going on from that stress.
Low-level anxiety all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just get past this.
Yeah.
We'll just get past it and then, go back to normal baseline, see what the new baseline is, but do what you can.
I will say, there is nothing worse you can say to someone who can't sleep than to say that, if you slept harder, you'd be healthier.
You'll be healthier. Hey, you're a terrible sleeper. You're going to die.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's really going to help me go to sleep.
I need to sleep so I can be. Yeah. Okay. You're welcome, everyone. I'm glad I was able to give you more stress fodder for your lack of sleep.
Yeah, add that to the list. My stress is making it so I can't sleep, which that's going to make me die sooner, and that's stressing me out further. It's fine.
It's fine. All right. I hope everyone gets a good night's sleep tonight, but we're not going to sleep yet. Blair, you have another story.
Yeah, just a quick one about dogs. So
Dogs.
For those of you listening who have a pup at home, if you had one of your dog's favorite toys and I don't know, like a bracelet on separate parts of the room, where would the dog go? They'd go to the toy. What if you made it just so clear that you liked the bracelet more? What do you think the dog would do? They'd go to the toy.
I think they would go to the toy.
Yeah, of course they would.
Toy.
But in a study from TWIS University in Hungary, inspired by work on infants, they wanted to see whether dogs' behavior could be guided by or influenced by human preference, owner preference. And so, as I mentioned, they tried it first with a fetching behavior, and nope. If the dog could have their toy, they took their toy. But then they took those items out of reach, and they wanted to see kind of what it would look like for the dog to show interest without actually being able to grab the thing. And when the owner showed more attention towards one item over the other, they actually did direct more attention towards that item. So there seems to be some sort of interest that is kind of inspired by the human interest. So it's, I mean, and I'm sure
if it were food, the dog would totally go where you were telling it to go. If it were, its favorite toy versus you saying, here's really yummy steak, or, the dog would be like, yeah, food, and would eat it.
Yeah. So,
I mean, they're your friend for food.
This very preliminary study says that the dog looked at the favored item more. And in groups where the human didn't smile at a particular item and like frown at another item, when they acted neutrally to both, they actually statistically looked the same amount at both items. So there seemed to be a bias based on that, which, if the dog can't touch it, if they can't investigate it closely, then sure, there's going to be some curiosity in my owner's really interested in this item. It must be good.
Yeah.
So
I'm. Can we at all be surprised that dogs are trainable?
No. I think that's a very good point.
I mean, but there's the Rhodesian Ridgeback was trained to hunt lions. Mm-hmm. What dog in its right mind cares about attacking and hunting a lion? None. No dog wants that on its own will. They're just programmable to a great degree
Yeah,
to
for
do
sure.
what humans want.
But I
But
think
then
this isn't food based is the thing. So it's not technically training. It is just a cue of what I'm interested in. So
But I think that in between the two of these comments, Justin's saying, well, yes, is it a surprise that dogs are trainable? And this study and what it's actually showing is that humans can cue the dog interest. And then potentially because of that bond, the human dog bond, and the dog seeing this is important. Oh, do I want to? Okay, I don't need to right now. But in a training situation would make that happen more easily.
Look,
this
I know
is
this
part
big
of
cat
that.
5 times your weight.
Yeah.
May look
Lion.
intimidating from afar, but I just want you. There'll be a treat after, all right? But I just need you to go there and how do you explain that to a dog in the first place? Like
I
that's
just
going to
want
be.
I want you to do something that's going to threaten your ultimate existence on this planet. Yeah.
Oh, it
Here,
both says
have a begging
dogs
strip.
are loyal and the dumbest creatures on the planet at the same time.
I mean, they can't be that dumb if they're so
We
trainable.
love them. If you just tuned in, this is This Week in Science. If you're interested in a TWIS shirt or mug or other item of merchandise for holiday shopping, for gift giving, head over to twis.org and click on our Zazzle link. Also available now are TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendars. While you're there, click on the horned frog and you'll be able to purchase a calendar or more. They make great gifts for the holidays. I'll be sending them out soon to those of you who order them. Get them while they're good. All right. It is time for the COVID update.
Yeah, I feel like it's not even worth it. I don't feel like doing a funny bit anymore.
No, well, it's not funny. And let me tell you why. We are just about at 250,000 people dead in the United States as a result of COVID-19. It took 96 days for the United States to reach its first 1 million cases earlier this year. We just went from 10 to 11 million cases in 7 days, according to Johns Hopkins. It's accelerating and it is spreading everywhere. If you did not start quarantining for a family Thanksgiving on or before November 12th, maybe consider a Zoom holiday or a drive-by holiday this year. Hospitals are filling up across the country right now, and that means the next couple of months is going to be all about personal responsibility. It's up to everyone. It's everyone's job to keep others safe right now because there is no vaccine yet. But Moderna and Pfizer have announced 94 to 95% efficacy for their mRNA vaccines. We reported on Pfizer with their press release of a week ago saying they had 90% efficacy. Well, they've done a final tally of their clinical trial results to date, and they say they're at 95. Moderna is about at 95. Pfizer wants to apply for an emergency use authorization with the FDA. And if that happens rapidly, that would mean that as soon as the authorization happens, 50 million doses could be delivered to the United States by the early 2021, which would make mRNA vaccine from Pfizer available to healthcare workers, frontline workers, and those who are deemed to be among the first individuals to receive the vaccine. That would be possible early in the year, which would be amazing. But apparently, both of these vaccines, Moderna's mRNA vaccine more so even than Pfizer's, they have adverse reactions that are not serious adverse reactions, not the kinds of things that would stop a vaccine from working. It's like itching and burning at the site of injection, having a fever, feeling pain, aches, having a lot of the symptoms of sometimes coming down with the thing that you're getting vaccinated for. People often complain of the symptoms they get after they get a flu vaccine. And it seems to be that a large number, 2% of individuals who have so far received the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine during clinical trial are experiencing high fevers, are experiencing aches and pains. And these kinds of results could, although they're not dangerous to people's lives, lead to less adoption of the vaccines, that people wouldn't want to get them because they'll hear bad things about them. Because who likes to be uncomfortable? But it...
you know what's worse? Your lungs turning to jelly.
There you go. That's what that's the point exactly.
Sorry, not to eat your point, but jeez.
That's it. Yes. Well, these clinical trials will continue potentially, and it's I would doubt that the FDA will give emergency use authorization within this year, but who knows what we will see. We'll see what happens. These clinical trials are going to continue for about 2 years, following all the subjects, looking for long-term effects of the vaccine, looking at immunity, how effective it is, all sorts of things, especially because these mRNA vaccines are brand new and we've never had mRNA vaccines before. It's a new thing, using your body and your body's machinery to create the vaccine or create the antibodies. Alrighty. Next story on the COVID roundup. This one is potentially good news. There have been multiple reports of diverging interpretations of SARS-CoV-2 immunity. We've talked about it on the show. According to some people, there's evidence that people can be reinfected. And now that we've been in this for a while, the reports of reinfection are increasing and increasing and increasing. However, sometimes it could be just persistent infection in which the virus was never really cleared from the person in the first place. You start feeling better, but it has been shown that SARS-CoV-2 can actually be harbored in the gut, in the cells in the gut for a long period of time. So, will vaccines work if we don't develop long-lasting immunity? We might have to get them every year. I don't know. Will they work? So far, there's effectiveness, but here's the good news, and maybe it's appropriate right now. There's a preprint report this week, and there's also an article out in the New York Times following the preprint that they followed the COVID-19 patients over 6 months. And it concludes that lasting immunity is possible.
There's another element to it, too, that I've been very suspect of.
Yes.
When it comes to any of these studies in the United States, because we have had atrocious testing in the first place. We've had waves of bad tests that had horrible opportunities for false positives, false negatives, almost worthless reliability, right? Standards. So part of me thinks, okay, there's people who came down with COVID, who are tagged as came down with COVID, who maybe didn't.
Yeah.
And so if they're the ones who have been reported as reinfected, maybe it's because they thought they'd gotten it and were immune and went out into society like, I'm fine, and got it.
There's many different levels
so
of this
noise.
too.
There's so much noise in that system.
There's also people who got it but didn't have, they maybe had a mild infection and then they got it again and got a serious infection. There are people who have had serious infections, thought they were fine, and then they went on to have another serious infection. Like, there is every possible combination that you could consider. It's happening. And that's what makes it so complicated. And like you said, our testing is atrocious.
Yes.
And so if you catch somebody at a certain phase of the disease development, of the virus's life cycle, who knows, the test result might not be telling you everything you need to know.
Right. But the good news, the silver lining in all of this is that so many have caught COVID that if it was something that you could catch, that you couldn't build an immunity to, I feel like that would have outpaced the noise in the system to where we'd be saying, obviously we do not have immunity to it because so many tens of, if not hundreds of thousands have been reinfected. Because we're not talking about numbers like that, it makes the cases where we see reinfection, in my mind, somewhat suspect in terms of the overall trend, or it's possible for some people don't build the immunity as well. But I think it's there's the fact that we haven't gotten a clear signal of reinfection past the noise of sometimes it shows this, sometimes it shows that, tells me that it seems, it's logical to conclude, however it should be best phrased, that there is an immunity that does come from this.
There does seem to be an immunity. And in this particular study published in the bioRxiv, they looked at immune memory of all three branches of adaptive immunity, the CD4 T cell, CD8 T cell, and humoral immunity antibodies and memory B cells, according to Shane Crotty, who is one of the authors on the study from his Twitter account. He said they looked at them in a mixed cross-sectional longitudinal study of 185 recovered COVID-19 cases, including 41 cases for more than 6 months after COVID infection. And over that time, they saw a diversity in the profiles of these different immune agents. But and this is one of the first times that we're really looking at all of these immune agents, these different cells that are involved, the different factors that are involved over such a long time period. And what they found is that it really looks as though individuals maintain neutralizing antibodies for 6 months and other forms of immune memory. So going past 5 months, going into 6 months, there is humoral, there is immunity that, and it may not be, and like we're seeing a variety in how this affects different individuals. Perhaps it is dependent on the individual in some situations, but the majority of people hopefully will have the development of immunity in this kind of a fashion. So this is a preprint, still needs to be peer reviewed before it's published, but at the same time, it looks like a great study and people are very excited about it. There's a study also out in the New England Journal of Medicine this week about how an area in China took care of their a little outbreak. There was two cases that happened in an area of China. And they, instead of locking everything down, they didn't let people go on public transit at first. They brought in thousands of volunteers. They tested over 10 million people. They tested over 10 million people. They used pooled sampling. They used all sorts of methods. They were able to find 12 cases of COVID and isolate those individuals, and they completely knocked it out by testing everybody, a rigorous test everybody solution. And until people tested negative, they were not able to ride public transit. There were rules in place, but it worked. So to move forward, we could initiate testing if we had the coordination from our federal government to our states, the resources allotted to do it. There are ways to do it. It takes effort and money and people, and it's hard. It's very hard.
It's not that hard. I mean, the alternative. So the alternative
we're going to discover this winter. So.
Yeah. So I just want to clarify a couple of things. The vaccines that are coming are not a cure, so still don't get it. You have to have the vaccine before you encounter COVID. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. You have to. This is not to fix it. If you got it, you have to have it before you get it. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. And one of the things that this country, unfortunately, apparently some in leadership do not comprehend, same problem in Sweden, herd immunity, as we're now finding, could potentially exist. To get there through that method in the United States, with just calling it a 2% fatality rate over the 350 million people, it's simple math. 7 million people would have to die. We're at 250 some thousand people, and it's already the worst that we've encountered. 7 million Americans would have to die in order to do that herd immunity idea. So
I don't like that. Let's not do it.
Yeah, that's a bad plan.
That's a bad plan.
Nope.
That's a
That's
big
nope.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's be done with the COVID corner. Let's be done with that. And let's keep moving on up to the next portions of the show. I just want to say this is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want to help TWIS grow, get a friend to subscribe today. Yay! That would be great. Oh, what time is it?
What time is it?
It's a certain time when I play some music. Maybe. Do I play music right now?
I think so.
I sometimes
Why?
forget
Why
what
would
I'm
you play
supposed to
music
do.
now? This is
Because it's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
Where?
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. Wanna hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
God, Blair.
I have a really cute story actually about finches. Kiki's
I
favorite,
love
the zebra finch.
finches.
Yes.
My faves.
Zebra finches, and how they are able to remember up to 42 birds based on their vocalizations alone. So we know from prior research that humans have what's known as fast mapping. Of course, when I started reading this story, I started thinking of how I can hear a voice, and if it's someone I've come in contact more than a couple times, I usually can figure out who it is pretty quickly. And that's what fast mapping is. It's the ability to recognize an association between things after very little exposure. So you can recognize someone's voice after sometimes a single conversation. And of course, as you might imagine, prior research suggested that fast mapping was what? Uniquely human. Because why not, I guess?
It's all ours.
Anyway.
It's ours.
Spoiler alert. Anyway, they trained zebra finches, on small sets of call data and then expanded them to test the bird's limits. So in the first day of training, they would play either a call or a song for a given bird. And then vocalizations were paired with one set leading to food and another that did not. So the results were a test that allowed the bird to demonstrate whether they recognized a bird making a given call. So if you heard the call, then they would play the song, and the song for that bird was the one that had the food. Over time, the number of bird calls increased, and if the bird recognized the pre-recorded call, they could allow it to play, or I love this, if they did not recognize the call, they'd skip it. Skip. Press the button to skip. Nope. Skip. Nope. Skip. Nope. Yep, I recognize that one. And in the training, the researchers found that finches were able to remember and recognize on average 42 birds by their vocalizations alone. And so they also wanted to note that birds learn to recognize other birds by their calls very quickly. It took just a couple of exposures. And they also found that the birds retained those memories over time. They left them for a month and came back, and the birds still were able to recognize the calls.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so they indicate that zebra finches have fast mapping skills, and humans, once again, not unique.
Oh, for
Not
the people
unique.
who
I don't
really
know. I
want
don't
to...
think I've ever met anybody who spoke 42 languages.
No. Well, it's not languages, it's individuals.
It's
They're
voices.
recognizing
Yeah.
42
dialect.
voices.
No, it's
even
just, no,
dialect.
it's just voices.
Have
Just
you
voices
ever
of
heard?
individuals. Oh, okay,
Have you-
I could do that. That's
Have you
not
ever
hard.
heard? Have you ever heard zebra finches? Have you heard the zebra finches?
Yeah, to our ears, it's like, yeah, but but they can tell the difference.
I want that to be my ringtone. I love it. Meep, meep. Anyway,
yes.
yeah, so once again, we're not special, guys. We're just animals. We're an ape.
Animals.
We really
We're
have
an
not
ape
been
like
around
any other.
that long compared to others. You know, we're the same as, just like to say, we're exactly as old as everything else, evolutionarily speaking. So, you know, it's,
Yeah, I feel like any animal that has to recognize individuals. Zebra finches are very social. They live in
Mhm.
big colonies, right? Lots big flocks, lots of other individuals. They are very tuned into their parents, their neighbors, the
Mhm.
individuals who train them on their call. They learn their calls from other individuals. And I'm imagining, if we're talking about any animal that has language abilities, birds would be first on the list.
Mhm.
And then bats, I'm sure
Mhm.
bats, dolphins, dogs.
Yeah. Mhm.
How many? Let's just keep listing them.
Yeah.
Mice, rats,
Elephants.
mice and rats, rodents at least have the ability I mean, to teach. That's an interesting whole thing. Like dolphins can teach, the orcas can teach their young.
But this
mice
fast
can teach
mapping.
other mice to avoid mouse traps. Like, that's a whole other layer too. When you're then talking about not just being able to understand what something else is like. Oh, what is it? The little prairie dogs. They have different vocalizations for, hey, there's a mountain lion or a fox or a hawk in the air that the rest of the group can recognize.
But the
Language
question is, can they tell each prairie dog apart by their call, and how quickly?
I bet they can.
Yeah, they probably can. We're not special.
We're not special. This is Blair's People Aren't Special Corner.
Yeah.
Okay. Now tell us about your
Yeah.
very special, terrifying parasite.
Yeah. You want to know
That's
what
your
is
favorite.
special?
I should
A
take my
deep
break
sea isopod, which is a type of crustacean that are ectoparasites of fish.
Mm.
They're called,
That means on the outside.
yes, they're called cymathoids. And the most famous of which, Cymathoa exingua, is known as the tongue biter.
Oh, geez.
It's
that
it's
thing.
it's the buddy that eats the tongue of a fish and replaces it.
Oh, it's that thing. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's so
terrifying.
gross, guys. But anyway, this very important, very gross crustacean. Let me tell you about it. So,
Okay.
a relative of that tongue eater was discovered. We knew about this species. There were 5 specimens cataloged and described in
wait.
1981.
This is not going to be the tongue. It's going to be a different thing.
You betcha.
Thing.
So
Oh,
yes,
no.
so cymathoids, there's over 300 species of them, but the least studied of all of them is this one, Elthusa splendida. And
Great.
there's only 5 specimens that have ever been
please
cataloged.
don't
They were
finish
found
this
in
story.
1981. They were recovered from a Cuban dogfish, which is a deep sea shark, and it was captured off of southern Brazil in the western South Atlantic. In this study, they discovered a specimen of Elthusa splendida while processing fish specimens at a fisheries science center in Hokkaido University Museum, Hakodate. So this is in a Japanese fish, is a Japanese deep sea shark, and it was collected from the East China Sea, and it had been preserved in formalin. So they found it preserved. They found this guy inside of this shark.
I just
And-
want to know what part of the body the thing replaces.
You're going to have to wait. It's the stinger at the end. I'm not going to tell you right away because what's interesting about this is not where it connects to the shark. What's interesting about this is that this is an almost antipodal place to the previous location of this little bugger, which means pretty much the exact opposite of the planet. So these things, so understudied, we have 6 of them now.
I feel like
apparently
you're intentionally
are
drawing this out.
all over the planet or hitch a ride with dogfish, or they've co-evolved with squalus, which is just like the a particular group of
Doing
sharks.
this intentionally now.
So so it's really cool because they're all over the planet, but it also means there's a lot out there for us to find still.
Right.
So these guys also are unique in that they do parasitize the mouth, but they attach to the palate. It is one of the only species that we found that do that. So that makes it extra unusual as well. But this means now the scientists propose they want to just go peering into the mouths of fish and sharks all over museums across the world because this bugger might be everywhere.
Wow.
So once again, we have something being found in a museum collection that wasn't anticipated, but they're so widespread that they could be attached to pallets of fish, high and low, far and wide.
Like on the roof of my mouth,
Uh-huh.
or like underneath my tongue.
I believe
or would it
it's
eat
the,
your
it's
tongue?
the roof of the mouth, so they don't eat the tongue.
Okay, so it's like a double tongue.
Ugh. Which, like, fish tongues are stuck to the bottom of their mouth, so they can't stick their tongue out like we can. So it would, it's not like the tongue would get in the way or anything, really. But yeah, so sweet dreams, everyone.
That ended a lot better than I thought it was.
Really, you thought it was gonna be worse than the palate? The palate's pretty gross.
Is it?
Actually,
I thought the tongue was grosser.
I think I understood where Justin was taking it, and I'm glad it didn't.
Oh yeah, no, it did go there. No, it wasn't one of those animal corners.
It's a good sized little crustacean, though.
Yeah.
Is that the size of the thing?
Uh-huh.
So
Oh my goodness!
There you go. So imagine it's covering your whole palate.
And we have a picture here for people listening, and this thing is it's like a big thumb.
3 fingers long. 3 fingers.
Well, the length of a finger probably as wide as that's a big
Not as
yellow
wide as wider
as a
than a
thumb.
finger, but as long as 3 fingers.
held together. Like you're saying 3 fingers, but it's not like 3 fingers end to end. That would be very long.
No, it's like hands on a horse.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Growing up on a farm, that's the only way I know how to count, actually. Hands on a horse.
Oh, all right. It's a very interesting looking little creature. I want to know how many people are going to the fish market and looking in the fish mouths now.
How many of you will wake up in the middle of the night and think that you have something clinging to your palate?
Actually, just to remind people, these are so common. They have been in the mouths, tongues, and palates of many of the fish that you've eaten. No
Potentially. They're deep sea, so we don't know. But the tongue ones definitely have been in fish that you've eaten.
Yes. They just removed that part before you got fed it.
Maybe somebody ate the tongue of the fish that you ate. Wait. Okay, never mind. Wow, thanks, Blair. This is
So if you all want just a beautiful kind of landscape to look at before you go to bed tonight, go ahead and Google tongue eating parasite, and it'll be beautiful.
Nope.
Yep, nope.
It's gross. It's very gross.
Nope.
I can't say that I'm going to do that.
Cymethoid. Google cymethoid.
You know, I know.
Tongue eater.
In your corner, it's often pointed out that humans are just animals. I'm glad we're not fish.
Yeah, same.
This is one of those moments.
Yeah.
One of those moments when you're reminded how
I'm not
glad you
that
are
animal.
not to be a fish. All right, friends. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for being with us here for our 800th episode. Oh, we're having a lot of fun tonight. With your help, we can continue well past 800 episodes to many, many more. Please head over to This Week in Science. Purchase our calendars. Our calendars are there, ready for 2021. We got to start planning ahead, or just looking at another year. They're beautiful pictures. Blair has drawn beautiful pictures for the Blair's Animal Corner 2021 TWIS calendar. So head over to twis.org. You're welcome. And click on that horny frog over on the sidebar and purchase your calendars today. Also, while you're there, maybe click on that Patreon link and choose a level for your support to keep TWIS bringing sanity and science, and tongue eating, maybe, to to more people like you. Thank you for your support. We really can't do this without you.
Yeah.
Justin, hey, You got some stories for us?
I've got a couple of stories left here in the quiver. A study conducted by University of London professor Christoph Bruecker and his team reveal how micro-structured finlets on owl feathers enable silent flight. So they published this in the Institute of Physics journal, Bioinspiration and Biomimetics, in a paper titled Flow Turning Effect and Laminar Control by the 3D Curvature of Leading Edge Serrations from Owl Wing. Research outlines their translation of detailed geometry of owl feathers into biomimetic aerofoil to study aerodynamic effect on the special filaments at the leading edge of the feather. So there might be an image you can pull up, but turns out the leading edge of an owl wing has these strange tiny hairs, these little filaments that line it all the way along.
Yeah.
And they thought that these would produce vortexes. They thought this might be something that would sort of enable the passage of air above or below, or pressure thing. It might help the energy conservation of an owl's flight. But it turns out there were no vortices. In fact, these finlets act as these weird guide vanes because they have this little curvature to them. And they create a regular array, the regular array of the finlets along the wingspan, turn flow direction near the wall and keep the flow for longer and with greater stability. And it actually avoids turbulence. It's a turbulence disruptor. One of the things that is a potential outcome of this then is more silent flight, which if you're an owl, seeing at night, sneaking up on that errant rodent that stayed up a little too late, exactly what you want is silent flight. So you descend from the heavens to grab your prey in your talons.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions about owl flight. How exactly are they so quiet compared to other birds? And
yeah, so this might be the secret of the owl wing exposed. They also think they might be able to make quieter aircraft. Based on
fuzzy, make them fuzzy.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
I just pictured a plane that looked like the car in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, yeah.
Covered in fur.
Cover it in fur.
I used to take vulture feathers and owl feathers to classrooms when I would bring an owl to the classroom. And you'd wave the vulture feather and go shoo, 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 shoo. And then you'd wave the owl feather and nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, this is something that...
if only you had been more observant at the time, you could have published this study.
Well, we knew it, it's common knowledge in the animal field that it has to do with the little fuzziness. But exactly what it's doing to the air is the new information. So that's actually very interesting.
You're way ahead. Like the direct observationists are always way ahead of the research. That always seems to be a thing. Like, here's something we just discovered that has been known for 1,000 years, but not understood why. And now we have the mechanism.
Yeah, the why. The why is pretty important. That's how you end up with fuzzy planes. It's great.
I think it would be awesome to have little fluffy plane wings.
Would they be fluffy or would they be like velour?
I don't know. like little tiny eyelashes, maybe.
Yes, covered in
More like-
eyelashes.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Oh my god! No, I just pictured like in a Mel Brooks movie, like a giant mascara wand before you take out.
You really are an old person in a young person's body. This is true.
Oh my!
What else you got there, Justin?
I have a team of researchers at the University of Maryland's Department of Computer Science. They have demonstrated that popular robotic household vacuum cleaners, they weren't specific, but you're going to know what they're talking about. Robot vacuum cleaners can be remotely hacked to operate as spying microphones.
It has a microphone in it. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it does. An unintentional one. So they collected information from the laser-based navigation system and vacuum cleaner robots and applied signal processing and deep learning techniques to recover speech as well as identify television programs that were playing in the same room as the device was operating. This is research demonstrates a potential. This is actually not a new technology exactly, but this is demonstrating the potential that any device that uses light detection and ranging LiDAR technology to be manipulated into collecting sound, despite the fact that it doesn't have an intentionally built-in microphone. So this work was presented at the Association for Computing Machinery's Conference of Embedded Network Sensor Systems, Sensei's 2020. Huge event. If you didn't make it, it's okay. It's same every year.
Totally.
Anyway, so this is basically a technology that's been around since the 40s in espionage, using a laser on a usually on a sheer surface like a window or something. Right? You shine the laser at the window, and then people are talking in there, and that laser is reverberating a little bit from that surface, and that's translatable into audio. This is according to Nirupam Roy, who's the assistant professor at the University of Maryland's Department of Computer Science. We welcome these devices into our homes, and we don't think anything about it. But we have shown that even though these devices don't have microphones, we can repurpose the systems they use for navigation, spy on conversations, and eventually reveal private information. So the things that allowed some of the objects in the household that were effective at allowing them to hack this robot's LiDAR and translate it. Trash can, cardboard box, a takeout container, polypropylene bag, things that they found that were on the floor of this place were really good at bouncing signal at a reliable enough rate for them to translate with 90% accuracy. This isn't this garbled message of like, I heard it sounded like a word was said, or 90% accuracy. It could identify what was being said.
So the Roombas are like bats. They're like bats in our houses.
From a minute's worth of recording, they also had the 90% accuracy in identifying what television show was playing.
Okay, so what's the company that used to put the little boxes in households around the country to figure out what people were watching and whether or not they were watching advertisements?
Nielsen. Yeah.
Yes. Nielsen's going to hack your Roomba.
Yeah.
They don't have any other way now.
Oh,
There probably are still Nielsen families, but those are the only people actually still watching TV.
Yeah.
They're all the Nielsen families because they have to.
Now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it's fascinating. I just the way the way they were able to do it is really that's some thinking to be able to take the LiDAR and the reflections of sound off of objects to be able to detect speech. I mean, if you are a motivated spy, there you go. I'm glad you listened to TWIS. Now you have a new little tool in your spy tool case.
There's another level of that too, where this wasn't part of the audio translation, but they found that they could get a map of the residence, like the furniture, where everything is, because these robots make. They not just acting on instinct every time they go out there, or not just reacting based on LiDAR, and they actually create a map of your residence, and that stores somewhere. And if you access that, you also have a layout of your place, where all the furniture is, where the stuff is, all that kind of thing.
Right. You'll be able to know
a lot of information you may not realize that your vacuum cleaner is collecting.
Goodness gracious. I hope people have been collecting TWIS since the beginning, all 800 episodes. There are a few of you who've been out there and listened to them all. We had some wonderful responses from people this week. Blair put a little call out to Twitter for people to let us know what their favorite moments, their favorite things from TWIS for the last 800 episodes have been. What are those fond memories of TWIS? Dr. Jens Full, he was a guest on TWIS, several shows back now, and he says, congrats on TWIS 800. Being interviewed on TWIS was an incredibly fun experience. And as I've mentioned before, it gave me a push toward embracing my SciComm side, especially with Blair's encouragement, which is now my new career and makes me very happy. On to the next 800. Blair,
yes.
We made a SciCommer.
I mean, I'm so proud.
Yay!
It's like a very successful one, too, which is like...
So great. So great. Magnus Apollo wrote, oh my gosh, 800. It's been such a long and crazy ride. Thank you for this and for helping lead the way for science education and sharing wonderful facts about the cosmos. You are all amazing. Todd Northcutt said, so proud to have journeyed with you. I used to travel a lot for work, and TWIS was always my companion. I've listened to episodes while in Japan, Sweden, Norway, Germany, China, and the UK, starting right after Justin joined in 2005 or 2006. Looking forward to 800 more. Then we had one from Rafe Langston, and Rafe wrote in, around 09 or 10, I downloaded my first episode of TWIS Science, and all I recall is Jackson Fly saying, I don't know, maybe I am demented. And that was the line. But for some reason, hooked me on the show. He said at first, no idea what the story was, but I've been listening ever since. And I wrote back and wanted to figure it out and said, I wish I knew what that story that would have been.
It might not have been a story. It might have just been me admitting publicly what we've all suspected all along about ourselves individually.
Well, he ended up finding it. And so we have this story from September 2nd, 2010. Working out your brain. It's good.
Huh?
It's supposed to keep dementia at bay, right?
I don't know. It seems to lead to it.
Go to museums, read books, have interesting conversations with people.
Listen to the groovy sciencey podcast.
Right. Do crossword puzzles, all that kind of thing. Well, the research is in that, it delays dementia, definitely. But if you're going to get dementia, it's not going to stop it. And once the dementia sets in, you actually become demented at a much faster rate than if you didn't do anything. But kind of the key point here, though, I mean, it's like, oh, great. My brain worked longer. So
disclaimer. The rest of this show may lead to dementia.
Right. Well, that's the way it could be spun. Totally. But that's not the way that it really works. I mean, doing all the mental push-ups will keep your brain healthier longer. So your quality of life will be, and your quality of mental capacity will be better longer. But then when you get dementia, it's going to happen whether or not you do anything. It's going to happen. So it's like, do you not want to do anything and have the slow decline over a long period of time? Or do you want to do stuff and be interested and try and use your brain and like have a good, happy brain for a lot longer and then be like, and bam, demented. So, you have a choice. You have a choice. which I think is interesting.
I think I'd make a good demented person.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody.
Are you sure you're not already a little?
The thing is, like, I wonder if I could tell the difference. Like, maybe externally you could tell the difference, but if you become yourself demented, do you really know that you're demented, or does this just seem rational to you? And then does everybody else? Because if you're thinking along demented lines, does everybody else suddenly seem very irrational?
Yes.
Like there's something wrong with them?
Yes. That's exactly it.
Okay, I could see myself. I might already be demented then.
Good self-diagnosis. I like this.
I find much of what I see around me as irrational.
I like it. Give me another story, dude.
So wait, that's 10 years ago? And absolutely nothing has changed in my perspective of the world. I have evolved not an iota from that past self. We are
you're
still
still
one and
demented.
the same. And I didn't remember the story, but I had the same take on dementia 10 years ago that I had now. And even actually 10 years ago of me even finished the point, which is that if you're demented, you think other people are really demented, which I feel all the time.
All the time.
So
Shh. Blair and I didn't want to tell you.
Little did 10 year ago realize
That's why Kiki brought me on.
how strong that feeling really would be. In this day and
How
age.
strong. And I do want to thank Rafe for that return, that blast to the past. That was very, very fun. Thank you so much for that. Fred 104 said the shenanigans. Obviously likes the shenanigans. Also, the original interviews with the biologist that did a microbiota transplant on himself, and the interview during the fledgling research of ketamine for major depressive disorder and how it affected neurons. Many more, but those stuck out immediately. Yes, the microbiome research, that was Josiah Zahner, and had him back on the show recently when both of you were gone.
Yeah,
that was a great conversation. Yeah. And the ketamine research, that was a doctor from up here in the Pacific Northwest, Enrique, blanking on his last name, but yeah, he has ketamine clinics to help people with depression. What does Fred say? Also, our shouting convos, and this is all in caps because Shouty Blair
What
on
are
Twitter.
you talking about?
Yeah. Meeting Dr. Kiki randomly. We met at a robot film festival in San Francisco many years back.
There you go.
And all the sponsored by Dr. Justin, not a real doctor. We have had some fun, a little bit of fun. So many of you here have really been a part of what we do here at TWIS for so long, and it's awesome. Blair, Justin,
Yes.
do you have any favorite moments, favorite things?
My favorite thing, selfishly, is that I have people who actually want my art. I have a reason to do art. I have a reason to make it. And if you asked me 10 years ago if I would be doing art on a regular basis and people would want it, I never would have believed you. I mean, it all started with that originally being my plan as a career, and then being told that I couldn't have that career because I'm colorblind, and then me realizing as an adult that that's stupid, but also having other interests. And then somehow this science podcast became a way for me to do and produce art, which is insane and amazing, and I'm so thankful. And I can't believe people are still buying it. I saw somebody tweeted today that they got their TWIS masks. They were happy to have them and had my woolly mammoth on there. And it's great. It's a huge gift. So thank you to all of you for that, for making me feel supported in my passion.
We support you. Keep arting.
I'll keep arting.
Keep arting. Yes. Justin?
I think my favorite moment from the show was not during the show.
Okay.
I was working in the genomics department of a biotech company, and they were doing a tour of UC Davis students. And they stopped by my station where I was operating the sequencers. And they go, and he also does a science show. And then a bunch of them raised their hands. We're like, yeah. I watch it all the time. Or, yeah, I listened to that on the, and they knew the show and the person who was introducing was didn't realize that was going to happen, but they all knew who had all been listening to the show because it rebroadcasts over the campus airwaves still. So that was pretty cool to know that that feedback you get when you know that. Oh, my other favorite moment is every time we've gone on location and met the listeners in those towns and got to hang out and socialize. It's always been a great time. I like the friends we've met along the way. That's been probably the biggest influence. And we lost a really dear friend this year in Ed. And Ed was a good friend. Me and Ed, we talked beyond science. We went and talked a lot of politics together. We talked a lot of science as well. And he is definitely missed. He's, I think, I would say, our longest time listener, because according to Ed, he started listening before the podcast. He's somehow
it's either I think Ed and Pamela. They're
Ed, Pamela, and Patrick maybe.
And Patrick.
I think Patrick might have gotten in pre-podcast through the old school IRC links or whatever. But
well, I also have to real quick throw a shout out to my dad if he is watching or listening, because he's the reason I'm here, because he came up to me one day.
Your dad.
Well, besides that, he's the reason I'm in TWIS, because he came up to me one day, or we were talking on the phone or something. He was like, "Hey, so do you know about these things, podcasts?" And I didn't have an iPhone yet, so I didn't know.
Me and Blair's dad are the same age, by the way. What's a podcast?
No. You're not the same age. But anyway, he was telling me about these things called podcasts. You say I was listening to this podcast that was in the suggested science podcasts. And I love it. And they just put a call out for an intern, and I think you should do it. So I had to adopt the podcast lifestyle, listen to a couple episodes, and then psych myself up to think that I could actually communicate science. And then go ahead and email Kiki without TWIS in the subject line. So I got spam filtered. And then finally we met up for coffee. And then it's history. But yeah, it was all him. He pushed me in the best way possible.
Thank you, Dad.
Yeah.
Thanks to Pat. Thanks to Blair's dad. Yeah. And for the t-shirts he has silk screened for us over the years. And he's listened for a long time. So thanks for listening. So many of you. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for bringing us to 800 episodes. I hope that you're here with us for many more, because there's so much more science. Mm-hmm. The science keeps on coming. Knowledge evolves, right?
Yeah.
We got to keep up with it. And sometimes I kind of go, wow, how did we go from this crazy idea, drinking beer and talking about science on a hot summer night in Davis, California on a balcony, to 20 years and over 800 podcast episodes of This Week in Science. So thank you all.
Yeah,
it's not possible without all of you.
Yeah, it's an amazing conversation to have, because it doesn't end. And while occasionally we feel like we're repeating themes, the subject matter is always new and fresh, and the insights are new and fresh and different. I can't think of another thing that you could talk about this much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's always changing. But at the same time, we can go back to some things from years ago and say, this is a little bit different. We've been talking about this issue for over a decade. This is where it is now. We've been talking about this thing for this long now. This is where it is now. And we, over the history, we're now at a point where we can have that perspective to be able to track the progress of something so that stories are not just, for me anyway, stories very often are not just an individual story. They actually tie into a research landscape. And that's much deeper and much more interesting. But, there's always going to be a tongue eater in there somewhere.
Yeah. Keep it spicy,
Spice it up. Okay.
I'm still I'm like a little concerned with the fact that my perspective and take on things has not changed the entire course.
You are who you are, man.
No, what was it? We were talking about this some months ago where we're talking about people who think of the word versus people think of the image. And Kiki, you said, apple. What do you think of? And I said, a green apple with these little brown dots. And you're like, that's exactly what you said last time we talked about this a decade ago, which I didn't remember. And I went back and I found that episode.
Oh, geez.
Oh, my goodness. I have not changed the picture of an apple in my head ever. It's just locked in there with some real permanence.
Some things don't change. No. I'm hoping that my presentation skills have changed over the years. I think
I swear I almost didn't recognize your voice when you played that first episode. And what's really amazing is that I sounded a lot like my 17-year-old son.
Yeah. Oh, and wow.
Like the articulations and everything and the way I was very unlike how I speak now, but very much like how he speaks.
Wow.
Yeah, get a load of this one. Get a load of this one.
Good morning. Welcome to This Week in Science. Yet again, back with more science for your technological earlobes. We're here in the station for the next hour. We'd like to thank the analyst and Janie Venom, who were... No, not Janie Venom. What am I talking about? Klinger, who is visiting on the analyst's show this last couple of hours. Thank them for a great morning wake-up call. And we'd like to get on to our own stuff. Check out various websites, www.kdvs.org.
That's still there.
The radio station's
KDVS.
Website where you can access forums and also archived shows, the show schedules, all sorts of information about wonderful goings-on here at KDVS. www.thisweekinscience.com is our website where we have updates about the show itself and our goings-on in the science world.
And maybe T-shirts.
We're
not sure. You'd have to go and look for yourself.
But,
to find out.
You would.
We've got an exciting show today.
Them for a long time. We have a very exciting show today. We're very excited about today's show, at least.
I haven't slept in 3 days, so.
He's lying. I don't know if anything would keep him from sleeping.
Yes, I do sleep the sleep of angels every night.
Somnambulistic. Anywho, 9 o'clock today, we've got Brian Greene, Dr. Brian Greene from Columbia University, who is a supermodel of science in my vision of the world.
He's going to walk the physics catwalk for us.
That's right. Tell us a little bit about string theory and space-time.
Gravity and why rainbows. He's going to cover everything today.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of... That's been the second...
We talked to Brian Greene. I was a different person. That was another lifetime ago, I think. That was a long time ago. Okay. Are we going to play a game in the after show?
Da 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 da.
We're going to play a game.
Somebody says, Justin, you have a 17-year-old? Dude, you look like you're 24. I am 24. And I have a 17-year-old.
Trivia time.
Yeah. All right. First question. According to the TWIS Wikipedia. TWIS has listeners in how many countries?
Are you looking it up on the TWIS wiki?
No,
looking it up
no
right
cheating.
now?
Blair, the pub quiz host, will disqualify you, just so you know. All right. So we'll just do it this way. Kiki, what do you think?
80.
And Justin said 51.
Area 51.
The answer is 60.
60.
Ooh. I'm closer. Without going
I don't
over.
know if that is at all accurate, but that is what it says.
Closer
on the
without going
Wikipedia.
over.
So that's what it said.
It's probably
All right.
a number I put down at one point.
Yeah.
I've never updated.
So also,
It's a round
according
number.
to the TWIS Wikipedia, when did Justin join the team? What year? So again, I don't know if this is
I know
accurate.
this one.
This is
I know
just
this one.
what it says in the Wikipedia.
I know the month too. Actually,
Kiki, what's your
So-
answer?
So that episode from the podcast was 2005.
Uh-huh.
And Justin and I, in one of the episodes I was listening to today, he said he'd been hanging out on the show for the past year, so 2004. But I think I probably got it wrong and put 2005 on the TWIS wiki.
2005.
Oh, the wiki is incorrect.
Okay.
Because I distinctly remember creating, doing an election show. Although I guess I don't know if that was just as a guest, as opposed to a temporary fill-in guest until she could find an actual co-host, which would have been most of 2005 and 2006.
Fair.
Mhm.
What is Dr. Kiki's BS in, according to the Wikipedia also? Because I thought someone else
Is
wrote
this-
it, so I was
is
like,
this
I wonder if this is
But this is
correct.
Wikipedia, though, not the
Yeah.
website.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes. No, I did not write the Wikipedia
Oh, you didn't.
entry.
Then you can guess too.
No, but I think I think for the Justin answer, I had said 2005 many times because the podcast
There you
and
go.
Justin kind of merged.
Okay, so if you think there's a chance
Let's see.
that, you know,
But
it's kind of up in the air, you can throw it in there.
So this is the bachelor's. This isn't
Bachelor's.
the PhD.
Yeah.
what is my bachelor's degree?
I'm still going to
in?
say neurophysiology.
Okay, so Justin says neurophysiology. Farah says biology. It's very just general biology, which I don't even think UC Davis offers. Shubru says biochemistry.
Life sciences? Can you just be that general?
No,
I think there's a life science.
no.
Well,
UC
I
Davis is
know-
way more specialized. than that.
I know what my BS is in. A whole bunch of BS.
The answer is
Word study.
conservation biology.
Oh.
Yeah. Wildlife and conservation biology, to be exact.
Well, this is what it says in Wikipedia.
It says conservation. Okay.
All right. According to TWIS.org, Justin founded the Institute of Reason at what
This
age?
I know. This I know because it actually happened. This one I know because it actually happened.
This is on my website.
This is an actual thing that happened, so I know this.
I think I'm going to say age 6.
Close.
Fada said 9. See, Shubru said 23. Carol Ann says 15.
Forced to resign at age 8.
The answer is age 7.
it's close.
Yeah.
7.
So I made it a rule that only 7-year-olds should be responsible for the future because we had more at stake and we're smarter than 6-year-olds, so that we had a better understanding of the world. So we were right at the prime spot
Right on the
to
precipice.
make all the decisions for the world. Unfortunately, it was very successful. Only
you
at
turned 8?
when I turned 8, I was forced out of the Institute of Reason for being too old.
Mhm.
You're too old. You're not reasonable anymore. You're
Okay.
out.
This, I'm actually really proud of this. I had to do some research for this. Okay, so if you go to twist.org and you look at our broadcasts,
Oh.
okay, what episode number was my very first appearance?
Your first appearance.
My first appearance. The first
Not-
time you heard my voice. Was it
Yes.
episode 356, episode 212, or episode 583?
I want to say it's 356. I feel like you've been around for a long time. Like, I almost don't remember, like, those audio clips we heard earlier. I almost can't imagine the time when you were not part of the show.
That's very sweet.
Well, no, I don't mean to be sweet about it.
I know you're not meaning it to be sweet, but I feel my heart feels warm, and
it was accidental sweetness.
356.
We both agree then.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so my first appearance was on January 12th, 2012. I had to find it.
Yeah.
And in that episode, when I was introduced, Justin said he would get me a hippo for Christmas the next year, but he did not.
Blair has been bitter ever since.
No, actually, I listened to it today, and
to be fair, I did try, but I got caught going over the wall of the zoo in Sacramento. And by the way,
they don't have hippos in Sacramento.
No, not anymore. They haven't for a long time. Yeah. Which is also very embarrassing because I got right to where the hippo had been, but I kept looking for it, but it had been gone for like a decade.
All right, next one. What is Dr. Kiki's PhD in? Specificity, please. Specificity.
I know what it is specifically.
Is it neurophysiology, life science?
I rarely
always mess this up.
Say the entire.
It's a lot of words. It's a mouthful.
Neurobiological.
I always shorten it because it's easier for consumption if it's.
Can I say brain science?
The answer is
molecular, cellular, and integrative physiology.
Is that it?
Yes, it is. That's
I'll never remember that.
That's my PhD.
Or as Hot Rod says in the chat room, her PhD is in bird brains. So
bird brains.
There's that.
Yeah.
Many zebra finch brains. Many zebra finch brains.
Now I moved to the Dr. Kiki Wikipedia. So according to the Kiki Sanford Wiki,
I know that one.
Where was Dr. Kiki born? Which I didn't know.
Dun, dun, dun.
I knew where you spent your childhood, but I clearly did not know where you were born.
Unless I'm wrong. I may be wrong. I think I know this one.
Nope.
Justin, you're wrong.
Oh. What?
I know.
Santa Rosa. That's where I was born. It's Idaho.
Okay.
I should have gotten more. She always answer questions more general. I should have just said California.
The first 2.5, 3 years of my life, I lived in Monterey on the Russian River. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so Santa Rosa was the closest hospital with my mom's.
Okay, so this is another one I had to do some poking around for. So, according to TWIS.org, the episode listings there, which of the following have been mentioned more times? Now, this is based on mentions in the show notes.
Interesting. Okay.
Is it spiders, pandas, or squirrels?
Oh, in show notes. Ooh, this is tricksy.
So, my guess is that the show notes stopped happening at some point.
They've
never stopped.
Up right now.
and to the point where I know we talked a lot about spider silk in the beginning, and pandas and squirrels are pandas and squirrels is all Blair, which is but that's most of the episodes.
Did you find this by using the search bar, or was this by the categories? Because
all right, I'm going with spiders. Final answer. Spiders. Final answer.
What's Kiki say? We got lots of spiders in the chat room also.
I know. Spiders. Yeah, going with it. Spiders.
The answer is spiders.
Me.
Spiders have 115 episode listings. Pandas have 30 and squirrels have 20.
We see the favorites.
Yeah. All right. We just have a few more here. What was the original name for Blair's Animal Quarter?
Wait, it wasn't Blair's Animal Quarter?
No, Justin has named it both times, but it had a different name. It was actually my second episode was the first time I brought a story. And I think Kiki told me to bring one story and I brought two. And I think I was like, which one? You're like, do both. And so Justin coined
Did I really
the
name it
term.
both times?
Yes.
What would I have named it if not Blair's Animal Corner? Blair's Amazing Animal Kingdom.
Okay, so that's Justin's guess.
Blair's Blue Planet. Blair's better than David Attenborough.
The intern's corner.
Intern corner.
Blair's Corner.
Yipes. Is that all I am to you?
Blair's Animal Insights. Blair's Blair's
Story Time.
Blair's New Tycoon. I don't know.
Blair's, I'm going to say Blair's Story
Time with Blair.
It was called Blair's Animal House.
Okay. Oh, why did that take too long? Oh,
So the first time I did that, as I said, it was the second episode I was ever on. It was January 19th, and it was about eyes and their long fingers.
Yeah. Oh, that was your first story. I should have.
Yes.
You recently had another I story.
Yeah.
I love that.
Just a couple more.
Blair's Bestiary. That would have been nice.
According to TWIS.org/YouTube, which the following is not a TWIS short by title. Neurogaming, Blair's Sperm Update.
Okay, that's one of them. For sure.
Do plants
that's
have
a no-brainer.
memory?
That's one.
Alcohol,
Ooh, I don't know what that means.
shark smells, and
Ooh.
celebrate the octopus.
I don't know. Which isn't.
Celebrate the octopus.
I'm gonna go with the shark
Am I
smells.
wrong? Am I wrong?
It was a trick. They're all true stories.
Oh!
You're tricky.
I know. Well, it's, just to let everyone know, there are 15 TWIS shorts on our YouTube page. They're all very fun and silly. So check them all out. They're all
I
there.
haven't seen one of them.
We filmed a bunch of things on location, which is great because you can't go anywhere right now. So you can live through us vicariously in the past. All right. Next to last question. According to TWIS.org, which of the following have been mentioned more times? So this is also based on search.
Oh.
Poop or brains?
I'm just gonna
Poop
hope
brains.
it's brains.
What about poop brains?
However, I feel like
This is based on show notes.
I feel like this is largely a contest between me and Kiki. Kiki has likely said brains the vast majority of the time. Brains have been mentioned.
Yeah.
I have likely said poop the vast majority of the times that poop has been mentioned. I feel like she talks a slight bit more than me, so I will say it's brains.
Okay.
I'm gonna if this is stuff written in the show notes, brains.
Yes.
The answer is brains by a lot. So poop is only mentioned in the show notes 50 times. Brains 415.
Priorities, people. Priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Brains.
And here is the very
or zombies, people.
Yes.
Learn from both.
Yeah. The very last question. Again, this is based on the Wikipedia, so this is not necessarily accurate. But according to the Wikipedia,
I have no memory, so things I have said in public should not be trusted.
According to the Wikipedia, what year was TWIS founded?
I got it.
2000. Maybe.
Hang on. Wait for it. It's eventually going to show up in the chat. There's a big delay. Oh, why?
Hot Rod said 2004. Justin says 1999. According to the Wikipedia, 1999. Yeah.
I can't do the.
There you go.
Can I do the
And
Rocky
that's-
theme song?
I can't. No, it's not the Rocky
TWIS
theme song.
trivia.
Thank you for that, Blair.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that
Fun.
was
Great to have a trivia master run you through trivia.
Yeah. It was nice. I haven't read a pub quiz in like probably 4 years. So
I
it was
love
very fun.
that. And on that, it is the end of the show. We've made it to the end, everyone. Everyone, thank you for joining us for another episode, our 800th episode. I do hope you enjoyed the show. Shout outs. We have shout outs to people who helped the show. Thank you to Fada for all of your help with show notes and social media and doing all the great stuff that you do to just keep things going. Thank you so much for all of your work. Thank you to Gord McLeod for manning that chat room. Thank you for keeping our web chat running and safe place to be for everyone. And Identity 4, thank you so much for recording the show so that we've got show to put out for everyone. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to Patreon and the Burroughs Welcome Fund for their generous support. Thank you to Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vegard Shefstad, Hal Snyder, Donathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Shioli Guillaume, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Maddie Perrin, Gaurav Sharma, Shu Brew, Sarah Forfar, Darwin Hannon, Donald Mundus, Stephen Alberon, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fred S104, Corinne Benton, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Bedbin Gnell, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, Matt Bass, Josh Fury, Sean and Nina Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Gene Tellier, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Richard, Brendan Minish, Melizond, Johnny Gridley, Flying Out, Richard Porter, Christopher Dreyer, Mark Massaros, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Melania is a Russian super spy, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Matt Sutter, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Mountain Sloth, Jim Trapeau, Alex Wilson, Sarah Chavis, John Ratnaswamy, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Kevin Parachan, Eric Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Stanton, Patrick Pecoraro, Paul Disney, Ben Rothig, Gary S., Tony Steele, Ulysses Adkins, Brian Condren, Jason Roberts, and Dave Friedel. Thank you so much for all of your support on Patreon. And if any of you are out there are interested in supporting us, you can find information at twist.org. Click that Patreon link. On next week's show, it's TWIS giving time next week. It's time to give thanks. We're always giving thanks. So much gratitude.
And we will be back, of course, then on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time, broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook studios, as well as twist.org, something forward, backward, /live. Try both. I don't know which one it is. I can't tell them apart.
It's a backslash. Want to listen to us as a podcast? You get to miss out on all this fun up here, but still, maybe you get to multitask while you listen. Just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, please also get your friends to subscribe to the podcast as well.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twist.org, and you can also sign up for a newsletter.
You can also contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twist.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, in that subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into a time vortex and it'll show up in 1999. No one will get it.
Yeah. Bird voices are your thing. You can tweet at us on Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there is a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, haiku that comes to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week for 801, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
But if you learned anything from this show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. Science is coming your way, so everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. 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 And this week in science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. Cause it's this week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 Got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. So how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This week in science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's this week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in 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 science.